intelligence and sharp sense of humor always shine. He loved watching hockey and riding ATVs with his buddy Joe Coughlin. He loved gardening, and he loved learning. I remember back when I was in high school, and I was reading comic books at the time. Mike was reading the encyclopedia. I'm not kidding. Not only did my parents buy them from some salesman, but Mike actually read them from A to Z. The phrase, thirst for knowledge, is thrown around here and there. But Mike lived that in no half measures. He was like Google, but without the advertisements. So the protocol was, ask Mike a question, go find a comfortable seat. So Mike was always smart and capable, but that didn't mean he was perfect. Mike could whistle, but he couldn't skip. Right, Mom?
Right.
And he didn't play basketball with me once he couldn't beat me anymore, which was around age 12. How many of us here passed their driver's test on the first time? Yeah? Mike failed 3 times. There's always dumb stuff like he didn't turn his turn signal on, or it was barely drizzling, so he didn't turn his wipers on. As kids, when we had any chance to lord something over Mike, we took it. So when he came home empty-handed with no success from his exam, Cindy saw her chance to dig in. She says, "So, Mike, how'd you do? Did you flunk again?" You know, there's a driving test pamphlet that they give you that you can study with. I have one if you want to use mine, so you can pass it the next time. But those chances were few and far between with Mike. Mike was, of course, a world traveler. My parents gave all 3 of us the travel bug. It started off as kids with car trips to the Jersey Shore and Florida and Canada, and yes, I said car trips. As kids, Bob and Mary took us up and down the eastern seaboard to visit relatives and see the sights. Have you ever gotten a hot foot? That's when in cartoons someone sticks a match in between your toes and lights it when you're asleep and they surprise you with it. Well, Mike did that to me at Bar Harbor, Maine. But we also had family egg fights in Tampa, Florida, and played electric fence tag in Nova Scotia, Canada. If you've never played that, it's very simple. So when you're out for a walk, you grab someone's hand. And then you grab your uncle's electric fence at his cattle farm. And the trick is, only the last person in the chain gets the shot. So as an adult, Mike started traveling with Semester at Sea, where he met his lifelong friend Dan. And from there, he never really stopped traveling. His last diving trip was just this last October. Does anyone here have a total list of all of the places that Mike visited? It goes something like this: Mexico, Indonesia, Bali, France, Russia. I'll cut it short. Mike was able to visit every continent, including Antarctica. He saw sights, ate foods, and literally made friends everywhere. But Mike wasn't just a world traveler. Let's list some of the things that Mike became an expert at that most of us never even tried. He became a physician, a glider pilot, a published photographer, culinary aficionado, wine sommelier, dog lover, sports car driver, gardener, racquetball player, sailboat pilot, and encyclopedia reader. He loved scuba diving with his great friend Skipper, and was certified in advanced nitrox, technical deep air, trimix, and full cave diving. Pretty much everything. I had to reach out to his friends to do justice to this list because there were just so many things that I was guaranteed to miss. I'm going to say something which is so true and applies to my comments here and in every conversation you will have about Mike. How many of us have even achieved half of what he did? How many of us have even tried to? Mike just didn't try, he succeeded more than anyone I've ever known. He shared his love of photography with everyone. For years, his friends and family would look forward to his pictures of the day that he would email us. We have a few pictures with us today, but that's just the tip of the iceberg. On his computers, he has thousands upon thousands of pictures that he personally took. He technically became a professional photographer in his early 20s when the Medical College of Pennsylvania bought dozens of large-scale prints for him to display prominently in their hallways. That's something that I'll never forget. Not only because he was very proud of that, because he asked me to hang those prints up here, and he wanted it done exactly. Exactly. But Mike's greatest accomplishment, the thing that he most identified and loved the most, was medicine. He worked to help people. He was the go-to guy where he worked at St. Mary's, the kind that non-ER doctors sought for help. He was also kind of the person who typically worked holidays so that the other physicians with kids could spend time at home. A friend recently told us that when it was time for Mike to go to work, when he put on his scrubs and his jacket and he walked out the door, he changed. He walked differently and he held himself differently. He was a different person with a great sense of purpose. At some point growing up, he wanted to fly jets and be a fighter pilot. And this was even before Top Gun came out. But his eyesight wasn't good enough. That was very fortunate for the thousands of patients he helped in his medical career. That was especially great for the handful of lives that he personally was responsible for saving. In one story, a young boy came into the ER and was gravely ill. No one could find the cause, and neither the boy nor the parents could give help or any explanation of what was wrong with him. So they called Mike in, and he didn't give up until he found the smallest spider bite in between the boy's toes, and they figured out how to treat him, and they saved his life. How fortunate was that boy, as well as the thousands of others, that Mike was there for them when they needed him most, instead of being in a dogfight over a desert somewhere. And you know what his call sign would have been? Racer X. His license plate said Mach 5 from Speed Racer. Mike just wasn't compassionate about his patients, he was compassionate about animals. One day he drove by a lost dog in the hot Arizona sun that was in obvious distress. He stopped to check her out, gave her water, and then drove hours out of his way to return her to the kennel where she belonged. And that was the kind of guy he was. He loved dogs, whether it was his Ridgeback Blue or his Mastiff Fanny, or any friend's dog. One of my favorite memories with Mike is hiking with him and his dog through Utah. My kids love to hear how Blue had his own backpack and had to carry his own food for that whole trip, because I wasn't going to go. He gave a lot to us all, especially my kids. I like to think that he gave Audrey her voracious love of reading, and to Tom he gave his love of cross-country running. Every conversation that I've had with my friends in the past few weeks goes something like this: how much Mike loved his niece and nephew, and how proud he was of them. Uncle Mike gave the coolest gifts and always took them to the bookstore to load up on books. I have no doubt that given a few more years, he would have taken them go-kart racing and scuba diving and taught them photography. Mike gave a lot, but he wanted back from society just a couple things that we could all benefit from. Just a little thought into what you were going to say or do, and just some common courtesy. He didn't go to church, but he pretty much lived the golden rule: do unto others as you would have done to you. But if you didn't reciprocate, if you didn't even have some basic human consideration, he took notice. From his outrage at political buffoons to his embrace of the Darwin Awards, he took notice. Once Mike told me the story of when he was at a mall and he got parked in by somebody, and it's just not really parked in like you use as an inconvenience. He could not even slide in to open his door. So a normal person would curse under his breath and go around the passenger side and climb in. Not Mike. Mike called his friend with a pickup truck. He met him. And that fellow with the pickup truck parked that guy in on the other side. So when he came out and saw that he was definitely double parked in, he looked over to see Mike and his friend having a long, slow conversation about nothing. And he didn't move his car until they were done with their conversation. So yeah, it wasn't meant to be mean. Mike wasn't a mean person. It was social justice, in Mike's opinion. It was homemade karma. So yeah, he had a wicked sense of humor. I can probably speak for everyone here by saying that I will never hear a pun again without thinking of Mike. No one else will ever send me or my kids a picture of the day through email without making me think about Mike. If someone circulates a caption of the day contest, I'm going to feel like he's ripping off Mike, because that's what Mike did. A few years ago, Mike was hit with a severe case of gout, which caused him great pain and difficulty. Ultimately, the complications of gout and our